Hi, this is Craig Resnick coming to you from the 2020 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. With me today is my special guest, Sten Tham. He's an area lead for Hess. How are you doing today, Sten?
I'm very well, thanks, Craig. How are you?
I know you're using this new connected workforce solution called Mobideo. What kind of feedback have you actually had from some of the workers as a result of this new connected worker solution?
It's been a long journey, to be honest. We've got a lot of different users, from engineering folk to middle management to kind of frontline users. So I'd say that the feedback's been mixed depending on what position you are in the company, but largely positive. And I'll also say that as we mature in the use of digitalization of the workforce, that feedback gets more and more positive.
Okay. Now it's called an EBS. What does EBS stand for?
It stands for exception-based surveillance.
Okay. And how did monitoring this EBS solution kind of change the day-to-day life or tasks of the workers?
It's almost a complete philosophical change about how work is performed in the field. To give you a very poor analogy, it's kind of the equivalent of having a doctor basically going to a patient and knocking on every single person's door in the whole of, say, where we are right now in Orlando, and saying, every day, hey, are you ill today? And so the idea is to flip that on its head and basically say, well, I'm going to let the equipment speak to me. And so that's essentially the patient going to the doctor. And really this idea of exception-based surveillance is exactly that. You put digitalization equipment on all your equipment, and by condition monitoring that equipment, it will tell you whether it's working or not, and therefore you can more effectively utilize your resources, because the same resource isn't going to have to verify everything. The system is actually telling them what's wrong.
What additional information do the workers have now? And is that additional information making them more efficient? And if so, how is that happening?
They do get a lot more information. Basically, through a digital glass, they have a lot more access to information that need to perform any maintenance tasks that they would require. I think the other interesting thing about it is that once you digitalize a process, you get much more visualization into how that process works. And once you do that, you can then effectively, from a management perspective, understand the demand requirements on any individual operating within that digital space. So once you understand the individual demands for each person, as a manager, you can help level load the resources and help assign resources to where there are particular hotspots in the field or not. So two kind of things there.
One of the things with workforce automation is we know obviously there's opportunities to reduce time, reduce effort, maybe reduce some redundant tasks. Can you elaborate a little bit more on some of the experiences that you've seen in that regard?
Yeah, I think, the interesting thing again is as you digitize processes and you get very specific about what it is you're asking an individual to do, the more standardized a process becomes, the more you can understand what the impact of that process is. And what's also quite important is that the relationships between people is defined more clearly. So in terms of reducing redundant tasks, the more visual you get in terms of how the process works and people interact, you are able to understand what those relationships look like and reduce the redundant tasks in terms of saying, well, what information do I need to pass for you to do a job, and vice versa. And the more you understand that, the more you have a more intelligent conversation about saying, well, what things do you need more, or equally, what things do you need less of? And that's where the redundancy comes in.
Okay. Now I know kind of you think about like industrial workforce management, by being more proactive versus reactive. Is that inspiring? Do you see development of, say, new maintenance programs, maybe operator-driven reliability?
I would say, on the whole, yes. I'd still say it's a journey. I don't think it's a flip of a switch, but I will say that, again, as a result of the way that we've done this process and digitizing what we call a value stream, as you manage the value stream, you basically get more efficient with it, and that efficiency allows your people to have more time. And so you become less reactive in that sense, and it allows you to become more proactive and start to look at predictive maintenance type tasks. So I'll answer it. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that, as I said, you've got this analogy where the equipment is talking to you. There are two types of way that the equipment can talk to you. It can basically say, I'm broken, come fix me, or it can say, I'm about to go break. Both of those two things are very valuable, and as the process matures, you go from a state of reactive, where the piece of equipment has already broken, I have to respond to it, to, well, I know it's going to break, now let me start to look at, well, how can I predict how it's going to break? And this is where all the exciting stuff around data analytics and that kind of stuff helps initiate that process. So both of those things is what I'd point.
You know, I know by collecting like timely and accurate data from the field, you know, how does that really affect kind of the future planning around, let's say, resource management, supply chain, inventory? Have you seen an effect of that, Rashad?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, it goes to that idea of being able to visually manage and see what the work is being done. When you do have a digital view of how your workforce is responding to particular things, you can see where there are delays in processes or hotspots in processes, and you can therefore reallocate resources as you need to, depending on what you're actually seeing almost live, actually, on a day-to-day basis about what the particular field's doing or what particular equipment is or isn't working, and where you have process hotspots where instructions to individuals aren't clear, and that might cause a holdup, for example, as well. So as soon as you see this end-to-end value stream in a digital way, you can, as a managerial position, be able to respond to it a lot faster, reallocate resources, that kind of thing.
Well, it sounds like it's the Hess is certainly making great progress with the digital transformation journey, especially with the solution that you're using now with Mobideo.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. And with me today again is my special guest, Sten Tham, area lead from Hess. And I'm Craig Resnick, coming to you from the 2020 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.